BRB Blazer.
Another guy who I only have ranked is Leveon Bell. Just another guy I kind of wanted to touch on here, but so I got some Leveon Bell numbers here, but
pulled out the stats.
Pulled out the stats deck. So
I'm not prepared.
Yeah, I'm totally unprepared for this. Yeah,
I wasn't ready for this.
Get the bifocal.
Yeah,
his coach hates him. That's the only set I fucking have.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say the whole Adam
like
Gase thing is not very good, and obviously the Jets, they weren't a very good team at all. But I mean, he had 311 total touches. It was 8th most in the entire NFL. He had the 7th most targets in terms of for the running backs. So he's highly incorporated in the offense. He's a workhorse running back. We keep preaching on like volume and opportunity, and here it is. Here's a guy, like I said, 300 total touches. I think there was only maybe 9 or 10 running backs in the entire NFL had 300 plus total touches. I know last year he only averaged like 3.6 yards per carry, so the numbers were down.
3.2.
Oh, even worse. Yeah, it was pretty bad. But their offensive line was really bad. But one thing I've noticed in this whole free agency thing that maybe people don't really pay attention to, obviously you look at names like Tom Brady and you look at names like Melvin Gordon, where are these guys going? Jadeveon Clowney, in a sense. But you don't really pay attention to some of these linemen. You don't really focus on, where do these linemen going and how that really can change the game. But the Jets have been busy in free agency. I think they've signed 4 or 5 different offensive linemen. And now I know not all those guys can be starters, not all those guys could be studs, but, they obviously know, like, hey, our offensive line was a mess. We have to do something to address it. Like, they went out and they got a bunch of different guys here. So I just think the opportunity for him, getting the ball so much, boosting the offensive line, 2nd year in the Adam Gase system. Sam Darnold was out for a couple weeks with the mono, so obviously, Sam Darnold, just having him compared to the backup quarterback, that should help the offense. You would like to think. This is should be a pretty good defense, so it should be close games. He's not one of those guys where he's going to get games scripted out. And I think we said it last year a lot. He wasn't putting up like the Le'Veon Bell numbers from the past with the Steelers, where he's putting you up 20, 25 plus points a game. But, he was getting you like 10 plus points every single week. He'd get you 12, 14 points. So, he wasn't that RB1, but he was like that solid RB2 for you. So I just think if the price is right, yeah, I like Le'Veon Bell. I think we saw his floor last year in a sense, and it can only go up.
He announced that Le'Veon Bell's floor has been reached.
I mean, for the sake of redundancy, he is right on all of them. Because, we make jokes like the coach didn't like him and his efficiency wasn't great, but the fact that he was still top in touches, as long as he just hates him a little less, I guess this year,
dude, it's a point. They really, Adam Gase will be like, Bell, fuck you.
He's like 3rd and fucking 30. Fucking, guess what? We're gonna pass it. You're not gonna get your 20 yards of like just cush yardage.
Just start bringing it in their back.
Yeah. He's like Balil Powell, run for 90. No. So
or the draft.
I'm not a big. I'll take him depending on how you guys are saying about like Chubb, depending on where he's at. That's how I feel with Le'Veon. Like, depending on where he's at. Like you guys said, even him being bad last year, his floor was still solid. You know what I mean? And if you're drafting him, depending on what you take before him, obviously if you're taking him as your RB1, maybe not. But if you take someone above him, he's going to be a good serviceable RB2. With that upside of the 1, your team could benefit if he does end up that way. But he should be good still and efficient, even though his coach doesn't like him. So I dig it.
Can I say this? It's not really fancy, but it is. I feel like he just doesn't give a fuck about football.
He doesn't at all.
That is like
said that, right?
Yeah.
Like he what's the quote, Mike? Go ahead, say it.
No, I don't remember the exact quote, but he basically said that he's like, dude, like you don't see people being super excited about working at Target. Like football is my job.
So if somebody work at Target, do you think when they work from day 9 to 5, they go home and all they doing is worry about putting on the shelves? They trying to worry about what serial numbers coming up.
But then, everybody on Twitter was just looking at Le'Veon Bell, being like, "Dude, you play fucking football for professionally. It's not the same thing as Target. It's like a terrible comparison." So it's like he equivalates him playing football to working at Target. Basically, he accidentally basically let us all know how he feels about playing football.
It's like working at Target.
Yeah, he said it's the same thing as working at Target. So based on that, I think you're right, Anthony. He doesn't. He doesn't give a shit. He gives a fuck.
But he did the whole that they were like a Super Bowl potential team, and he was holding out, and his teammates were almost like, bro, what the fuck? I get paid shit. I'm blocking for you and all this stuff, and he was just like, oh, got to get mine. Basically, I'm gonna make rap albums and get fat and suck and sit in Miami. Like legit.
I love I put on we're watching for audio listeners. If you go onto YouTube, you can see what we're looking at. But I put on the Steelers highlights because it's a lot more fun to watch those than the Jets highlights.
I mean, he's talented. When he wants to turn it on, you can say, he's
for sure.
a
He's
talented
really
player.
I just think Le'Veon Bell is a prime example of one of those players that he has the talent and he has worked hard in the past, but like right now he just, like Anthony said, he doesn't really care. He's the player that doesn't have to go to practice as much because he just shows up and like he can play. He's the guy who doesn't warm up before the game, that kind of shit.
Yeah, probably won't play in the preseason like fucking like. I honestly just don't like. It's like this is like. I will rank him at a certain position, but I probably won't draft. Like for ranking purposes, I'll rank him higher than I would actually draft him.
Yeah.
Like it's just that like point of he doesn't give a fuck. Like 3.2 yards per carry. I was like one of the things was like I was like, how good a football shape is he going to be in? Is it going to be the same? And like it's just like I don't know. It's like almost like he looks lethargic. Like he's just like, oh, all right. Like
but maybe he got his feet back under him. You know what I'm saying? And it's tough sometimes too when you're playing for these teams that are so bad. And it's like, what are you playing for on a week-to-week basis? Like, it doesn't matter if you win; you're out of the playoffs.
See, but that's
like,
hard.
You don't even care.
That's hard logic for me to get behind because it's like you could be right with some guys, but for me, I'm like, I don't give a fuck if I'm 2-4 or fucking.
But it's your work ethic and like
that's what I'm saying. Like a guy who just doesn't give a shit.
For a guy who just compared football to working at Target, obviously his work ethic. If they're not in the playoffs and they're not in playoff contention. He's obviously thinking like, I don't really give a fuck. And like I said, the offensive line wasn't very good. I'm playing devil's advocate over here.
Yeah. No, like and then it comes out. I don't know if the Jets are going to be a good team. I kind of don't think they're going to be a good team again.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be bottom 10. I think there's potential for Gase going bye-bye. I think there's potential for the, feud between Gase and Bell, and fucking Bell potentially even like might sound crazy, but fucking trade me. Like if you're gonna like not playing me, fucking trade me. That type of shit. He did have 6 games under 10 points and only 1 game over 20 points all year long. So it's like he's just getting you that, like he's getting you by.
He's not going to win you a game, but he's not going to be the reason you lose a game.
No.
Yeah.
You just have to.
But that's why it's like for my rankings, that's why I put the next guy higher, Miles Sanders. Like that's why I have him higher. It's like I will take Miles Sanders probably ahead of him because there is the upside, yeah.
Yeah.
Would I rank Bell higher potentially at the end of the day? Possibly. But where am I going to actually draft him? That's kind of where I'm actually trying to do my rankings.
Yeah. So what would be your final thought to people when we're talking about Le'Veon Bell?
Come see us after the draft to see if they take a receiver.
Yeah,
that's true.
A receiver?
But
I mean, if they take a receiver, like a lineman, somebody to help him. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I'm even worried that they're taking another back a little bit.
It's a possibility, yeah,
for sure.
So there's just
somebody that Gase likes.
He's like, hey, you watch Chicken Run? Yeah.